G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags. Now I got a couple of messages sent to me after my last video. One was from a new sub who asked if I could show some low level Era 2 battles, as that's where he's starting to get into rather than the higher tier stuff for once. The second was, why don't I fly the Japanese very often? And the answer to this is, well, basically me and the Japanese planes don't get along so well. It's nothing wrong with the aircraft, they just don't fit my flight style. However, here is a battle of me in my Japanese. Now it's arcade battle, Battle of Midway, and I've brought out the A6M2 as my first aircraft. Now I dove in over the north side of the map, not far from the enemy spawn, as a few of our ground attack aircraft got into a bit of a turn fight with a number of Zeros that were in the area, trying to take out the enemy shipping that was coming down this side of the map and ground targets. So I thought it would best to move over and try and give them some fighter support. Now my biggest issue with the Japanese aircraft is mainly to do with their speed. Their maneuverability is incredible and I do love that. But they're sort of a set of aircraft that they need to wipe everything out in the area before they can safely leave. They're not really fast enough once they're heavily engaged to be able to break away if things start going wrong. That, with the generally low velocity of their weapons, I'm mainly used to firing, well, all the other nations' weapons. It doesn't really matter which one. The Japanese have the lowest velocity 20mm cannons in the game. This means I'm generally not that great with them. Still, I'm 3 kills up. I've taken out the first wave and I'm preparing to defend against the next wave of fighters that's incoming. I've got an XP50 in the area and I've just taken my first hits. They're only light hits from 7.62. I haven't taken any damage. Go hard evasive. I can't see the fighter that's on me at the moment though, but judging by the fact that it's still managing to maneuver with me, I would say it's also Japanese. Sure enough, there's an E3 and an O2. Trying to maneuver with them doesn't work and I take a hit from another direction, so I've got 3 aircraft on me. I can barely maneuver, try and get some shots on the E3, but unfortunately a collision. But that's alright. Means I get to bring out this. The KI-61I O2 with its 412.7mm. Now, unlike the 20mm and the 7.7s the Japanese have, I have no problem with their 50 cal machine guns. Their velocities are good, their accuracy is good, their damage is good. They're just some nice guns, and the KI-61 is by far, at level 2 at least, my preferred aircraft amongst the Japanese. And that's because, well, its flight model's based on the MC-202. That's what the aircraft, its original design parameters were based around. So it's an aircraft that retains Japanese levels of maneuverability, not quite as good as the Zero, but still bloody good by any standards, while still being fast enough to be able to get out of trouble when things go wrong. Now it's that speed that I'm using now. I've just dropped in, cleaned out a couple of targets that were bothering my troops. Now I'm using the speed to make sure I'm well and truly clear. There's a Boo fighter that's looking like it's going to try and cap our runway, so I want to try and use that speed to intercept. There's also an F2A that's doing the same thing. It looks like he had too much speed on to put wheels down here. Make sure he doesn't try it twice. Roll out and start looking for the Boo fighter. Looks like it's been eliminated. Airfield is secure for the moment, so time to head back into the battle. Now I'm not climbing too much in this battle, mainly because there's no real need. Every Zoom tactics you want to have that extra altitude. I tend to use the Japanese fighters' maneuverability, so facing them on a level, even with only a slight energy advantage, is my preferred way to go. Climbing to ultra high altitudes, I just don't see the point in these aircraft. At least not with the way I fly them. Others will fly them differently, of course. Still getting used to seeing the P38s and the XP50s down here at level 2. They do seem far more competitive here. Where they used to be, whenever I saw one, I had very little worry about whether or not they were going to be a threat. Now I have to watch them. I really should bring my XP38 out more. So I'm just following the swarm here at the moment. I don't want to go into the centre of the enemy team all on my own. I'm just watching them take on that Blenheim, waiting to see who is going to break away to push their line for a second time. Got a Spitfire up high and a TVF. There's enough fighters there to deal with it. It looks like there's not going to be much support coming this way, but we do have a P40 coming in, and I can't let it get to the runway. Those things are actually very good at capping runways at this level. So I roll down underneath him as he moves to engage. I don't want him to get his guns on me. That thing's got 450 calibers and will make a mess of this aircraft. Go vertical, loop over. Now power to this guy, he was a bloody good pilot. He made this an absolute nightmare. I just struggling to get the guns around on him. He was constantly manoeuvring and jinking the Kitty Hawk as much as he could to keep me from being able to get him. Hold for a second, patience, let him pull back up, jink north, and then nail him, catch him on fire, target down. Again, do a sweep through the area. It looks like nothing's approaching the airfield, at least not too close at the moment. There is a Boo fighter though that is looking like he's going to make a pass. Yep, he's nose down, he's going for the edge of the runway. So I will take a little bit of altitude this time because I want to boom back fast. Roll under to maintain speed. Kill assist, shoot his wing off. Looks like he'd already taken critical damage beforehand, but that's the runway safe again. This was a hell of a fight. KO-61 and Spitfire. Time to go over to that end of the world and see what I can do to help remove them as a threat. The enemy team seems to be little pokes here and there trying to get into the runway for a decap at the moment. Our team's managed to decap their runway. So we've managed to level them on points and pull ahead. KO-61 gets taken down, go for shots at range on the Spitfire. Kill assist. Being as I'm not hugely comfortable with the Japanese aircraft, and with how intense a battle this was starting to form into, both teams were brilliantly played. I don't think there was a bad player amongst us. I tend to play more defensively in this sort of a situation. But it looks like we have aircraft moving forward, so now it's time for me to advance. Spitfire and an F4U down low. The Spitfire is the greater threat here. It has enough manoeuvrability to be able to keep up with me in a turn, providing the pilot knows what he's doing, and in this match, I think they all do. Spitfire gets taken out, so F4U next. Kill assist. So I'm on a 5 assist streak. I'd really like it if Gaijin would put in on the reporting page at the end the number of assists you get in a match. I've had some massive numbers in the past. I'd really like to actually know what they are without having to go back through these videos and do a count. So with the rest of our team moving up, I decide it's time to attack. Get some hits on the Air Cobra, take it vertical, spot a 0 coming in underneath. Now that is a problem. Roll the plane to minimise my silhouette so he can't get shots on me. Now I'm not going to turn back on him, go back after the Air Cobra. He's managed to pull out of range. Some shots into the the 217. The DO 217 rather. Light the engines on fire. I've taken some really bad hits here. I've lost a lot of manoeuvrability. I'm leaving the combat flaps on now because if I fold them up I'm going to lose too much lift and this thing's going to go straight to the ground. Try and get some shots in the back of the Spitfire. I know at this point that I am going to get shot down here. I just want to take down and damage as many aircraft as I can before I go. So I'm taking it low to the ground just over the trees, trying to get more shots in on the Spitfire and to give me enough speed to get away from my pursuer. That Zero is still all over me. Spitfire comes up, manage to take him out. Go wide, try and get the air cobra, but that's my maximum turn and maximum roll with my current damage. I've lost all control of the left aileron. Right aileron is red. Try and move into the next, but that's it. Caught on fire. Control surfaces are going to go. I drop the wheels to see if I can put it down on fire to at least decap, but no love. But the best part of Japanese Era 2 is you have access to two Ki-61s. This is the Ki-61I Co with its two 7.7s and its two 12.7s. Not quite as heavy in the armaments, but besides that, it is almost the same aircraft. So first target I spot after spawning was this 112. These things are highly manoeuvrable. They're quick enough to be able to keep up with me trying to run, and they carry two 20mm cannons. I do not like them being in my airspace. I'm not particularly worried about him capping out the runway. They're a pain to land. They also have a tendency to have trouble pulling out of high-speed dives, so you can't high-speed cap in them. It's more a safety factor. I want him out of the area. He can easily kill me and members of my team. He was a good pilot too. He knew how to throw this thing around hard. But I've got hits on him. There we go. And that hit there was actually from an allied aircraft trying to take out the wreck. So even with good pilots around, that sort of shit was still happening. So pulling back for a bit of more altitude, I've just forced a reload on the guns. Try and get into range of a couple of teammates and start picking targets. Now I have to be careful here because that allied hit blew my cooling system and my oil system. So this thing is going to heat up. With the 1.37 changes, you can overheat yourself in arcade. It's a lot harder to do than it is in realistic battles, but it can happen. Just watching, doesn't appear to be any over near the rest of my team. For a moment there, all the enemy fighters disappeared. What's actually happened is we've broken into defensive lines. The enemy team is all swarming and gaining altitude directly over their runway. Our team is doing exactly the same thing over ours. The kill rates in this game were getting extremely high for all players involved. And there had been no quitters, everyone played to the last game. These were the sort of battles that I wish there was more of. I don't like 5 and 10 minute arcade battles. I like these, and this went for nearly 23 minutes. So JU-88 over there going for ships. With only 250 cals, I'm not even going to look at bombers for the moment. Enemy fighters are my threat. I'll let something that's actually armed with a bigger caliber gun deal with him. So BF-109F, potentially 3 20mm cannons. Era 3 and extremely dangerous in the area. Decide not to engage him and get rid of this 37mm air cobra that's floating around first. If I had engaged the 109F, I would have had to go nose to nose, and going nose to nose against that thing in this is tantamount to suicide. So light him up, take another hit. I definitely have a pursuer, so this time drive this thing into the ground. This is the one thing that I cannot seem to do in the Zeros, why I prefer the Ki-61s. I can actually run in this thing. And I can use a combination of the speed it can generate plus its very sharp manoeuvring to be able to force opponents into massive turn fights that they just cannot get the guns on me. As you can see, the 109 that was on my tail has broken off and ran. He realised he wasn't going to get the guns on. But one of his mates decided to have a go. bring the guns around on the FU. Or the F4U rather. Try to maintain my altitude and just run parallel to him. So if he swings back over, I've got a position to dive. But he looks like he's going to break away, so I'm going to climb away for a little bit. Now, I'm trying to make a decision here at the moment. Should I go back and try and repair this aircraft? Because after this, all that's left in my line is the Boat Zero and one of the KI-45s, which I've had since it was first released. I've never flown it. I'm not a particularly great fan of the Japanese twin-engine fighters just because of how much they're overperforming at the moment. But an MC-202 decides to make the decision for me. Now this was an interesting fight because this aircraft is basically the predecessor to the KI-61. If the flight models are, well, I know it's arcade, so the flight models are not accurate, but if the base flight model is accurate and both aircraft have been up-tuned the same way, the Japanese did make some improvements. Now he attempts to go low and weave into the jungle and ends up taking himself out in a tree. I'm diving back to the other way, but I have a pursuer now, so my turn to go play in the jungle. Every part of the aircraft except the engine is now red. Looks like I've managed to outrun my chase. And again, I'm thinking about putting down on the airfield. But I'm looking up at the ticket counter. This match is almost over. Might as well throw this plane into the fray. Maybe I can buy the team enough time to finish the job. At this moment though, the enemy team has lost most of their players, not because anyone's quit out for any apparent reason. They've actually all been shot down. They ran out of planes, and most of our team has had the same issue. There's only a few of us still left in the sky. So I head off to the left a little bit where I've got a Spitfire for support. Now I know I've got an Allied aircraft behind me. I've got another 109. Get a strike in. P39N, another 37mm, needs to be taken out of the match. Managed to rip it up, bring back around on the E. And I lost control there at the end, so I was unable to turn away. I just realised that's the second time an E-Series has actually rammed my aircraft this match, so very honourable. And that brings me to my last plane and my last kill of this match, the Boat Zero, and words cannot express how much I despise this aircraft. They take a reasonably good plane like the Zero and then whack a yacht underneath it. I've seen some people do some amazing things with this plane, but I honestly cannot stand it. Still, gets rid of the junkers. That's one of the last aircraft that they had up, and at the same time an ally puts down on the runway and caps it for ourselves. So that's the match. So my scores for this match were 11 kills for 3 losses, but I was not the highest of the match. That honour goes to the red team's top killer, Ions, who took 15 kills for 6 planes. He had a hell of a match. That was first place for my team, got the fighter award, 50,500 silver lions, 9,240 mod research points and 8,314 aircraft research points. All in all, a pretty bloody good match for a nation that I'm not hugely fond of playing. Also, turns out one of my KOs in this match was not particularly well researched, so I got a hell of a lot of unlocks in one mission. But yes, that is the Japanese Era 2 and my line. I I might have to play these a little bit more. I'm still not a fan of the KI-45s, but I do have the N1K up the end, and I really haven't spent a lot of time in that yet. I think I've actually only flown the aircraft twice since I've unlocked it. It's probably worth me getting into the Japanese a little bit more, simply because I haven't spent a lot of time on them. Most of the grinding that's been achieved for me to get where I am in the Japanese has been me basically just knocking over the daily double and then going off to fly the British or the Germans or the Americans or the Russians. I may only play the Japanese a couple of days a week. So I will have to look through, I will have to spend a bit of time in the N1K, and I think I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time in the Zeros as well, and see if I can work out exactly how to evade in them. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.